For the Dtalks, we have with us Ravindra Kumar of Group, Bengaluru.
Sorry, I'm going to be a bit of a mess. There's a number of slides, too many, but I'll manage. So for us, the idea of visual experience must be tactile. So it is not about just a chaos or a composition of many things, but there has to be serenity. This is something that I did with Made in Bali. So it's very important that we must be able to observe, be able to experience, be able to touch, be able to build by the idea of that notion of creativity. Almost till the Renaissance, there were no architects, in the sense there was no nomenclature for being an architect. But it was always guilds and people who built mammoth monuments. And it was always tradition. There was an inherent sort of aspiration of how everything built within. Made, a very dear friend of mine, though we never worked together, taught me what was texture. And also when I started looking at my own office, what we built, everything was built out of waste. It was built from a timber structure which is 6 floors in height, composite between steel and timber on an old structure that was existing before even the independence. And we sort of managed to create a whole ambience where a person from the street almost doesn't even notice it. It's not even there. And it is very quiet and it's very surreal and sort of austere in its existence and not bombastic and screaming. But as soon as you come inside, you start experiencing the section. You start looking at the texture of the timber. You start looking at spaces which are sort of talking to each other. And there's a humongous open space that arrives into the middle of the whole architecture of that ensemble that creates the impression of very introvertedness and starts looking at each other. We also have an amphitheater where we host jazz concerts for 200 people at any given point of time. This is our office where I sit and work. And at the same time, the visual experience or the art of the space is about being responsible, being austere, trying to reuse and recycle everything that you can ever imagine to build out of this kind of space. There is art in this. There is an expression of being responsible. There's an expression of what you can do with the space without having to scream situations which are not required or of the inordinary. It doesn't have to be iconic. It doesn't have to mean that you are making forms or geometries just to be an artist, but it is important for architects to be more responsible, to understand the value of their medium, the value of what they can do with their space. We took this extension to another space, which is a small house, around 8,000 square feet. It's in a very strong urban setting, intensely densified kind of locale. And when we started drawing, everything is drawn up to the point where the sign-off happens by hand, and only then we move into technology. And I'll show you some other projects where we use intense technology to create what we can do. So these are various kind of permutations that we involve the client to understand. And I'm showing my work here to only express that even you can convince a client who comes to you who says he wants something else. Sometimes it's important to educate him, to make him understand what the experience of that space or the house or the material or the color or the kind of even furniture that he can have can bring about a change to his own life, to go back to his memoir, to his life where he came from, to the village where he grew up or where his parents came from. To understand these reciprocations, he can bring memoir into the making of the house. And as an extension, we did one large structure in the middle of a forest, which is completely built out of timber. This is a 10,000 square feet home, which was completely erected and shown to the client before even it was erected at the site. At the 2.5 kPa wind load, there's no steel, there's no concrete, there's no cement, there's no adhesive. Everything is bolted into position and it can be completely dismantled and taken away and re-erected, which means to say the wastage footprint of that house is zilch. It is very important again to be responsible. When you jump to another scale, this is Lupin Laboratories, what I did in Pune. Again, we took back the same learning, the same essence of what you do in any of the other architectural kind of experiences that I showed you into a larger mammoth element. And here we include a lot of technology. These are intense labs where discovery genomics and a lot of clinical research happens in the same space. The method in which you articulate, the method in which you actually arrive at a project is the same essence, but the scale is different. Everything again, including the structural glazing drawings, are hand-drawn, and we go into the design board and understand the visual experience of this tactile idea and bring in landscape. So the whole building is out of glass, but it sits in a big garden. So the garden is so immense, that you feel that you're always encompassed by water bodies and gardens, and even when you're seeing through the glass windows, you can experience that. A staircase can be iconic. The staircase can also bring in geometry. A small landscape element can become the intrinsic nature of what is iconic or what is art. It doesn't have to be an abstract element, or it doesn't have to be an irresponsible space. Even the landscape can be very responsible in how you reuse water to the maximum and create water features which can be looking at the position of recycle to its absolute accuracy. So these are again vegetable gardens where the employees work within the garden. We brought about a change to how the client leads his own employees or how he works with his people. So we have to be the change, and we have to program the change, and we have to focus to make the client understand that this change can happen to what he can do or he cannot do. And last, I want to show a few slides. This is a project in Bombay, Andheri, which is a 26-acre development, and I've been working on this project for almost 14 years now. And the last phase that we are building is 4 million square feet, where we impress the client to build everything in terracotta. Everything is in glass. Tomorrow, in 2030, there's going to be almost 70% of the population living in cities. So how can we make cities look responsible? They need not be all glass towers. They have to be thermally insulated. We need technology. We need innovative methods to insulate the exteriors, be responsible. There is a 1 kilometer water feature here, which includes all the wastewater that comes out of this facility and becomes a beautiful water feature and brings landscape to the whole campus. So therefore, it is not impossible to recreate what we ideate or what we can tell a client what he should be, or also educate the people living within the campus or within the building that these are very responsible situations that they are using, and therefore the experience becomes complete. If a client comes to you and says, build everything in rabbit fur, you don't kill 1,000 rabbits. You have to tell him that this is inhuman. Thank you.